there's been so much up and down lately. It
usually has a state, now it's, yeah. Oh.
We're married in, so I think we're rolling.
Okay, are we ready to get started? I think we're good. Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. We start with the Pledge of Allegiance, back corner up there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I noticed you're missing something on the table. Please use the mic. Oh, I'm sorry. What? Yeah. All right, we're good. Okay, this meeting has been properly posted in all the normal posting places. And I need a motion to approve the agenda, but there's one thing we need to add to, and that's principal's report. After the information from you, would that be?
That would be great. Yep, after district administrative report, we can go there.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of the principal's report after the administration's report.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. So we're now on to board reorganization. Every year after the election, you should have this in your notes or your that was what was last year, so you can work off of that. So open up nominations for president.
I'll make a motion to nominate Dean for president.
Second.
Okay, are there any other nominations? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hold the same time. Motion is carried. We have the vice president.
I'll make the motion to nominate Katie for vice president.
Is there
Second.
second? Okay, any other nominations? All in favor then say aye.
Aye.
Hold the same time. Motion is carried. Okay, we've got the clerk. That was to be somebody new this year. Who would like to have the clerk's position?
I'll make the motion for Lindsay to clerk.
Second.
There's a second. Any other nominations? All in favor of Lindsay for the clerk, say aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Okay, we're on to the treasurer's position.
I'll make the motion to nominate Andrew for treasurer.
You ready to hop in there, Ed?
Sure.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
You have a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations? And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All the same sign. Motion carried. Okay. The member, thank you, Joe. It looks like this. Okay, negotiations. I would like to stay on the negotiations committee. Somebody else would like to dip in there?
Popular.
You need to?
Yes, preferably two. Yes, at least two for each committee. Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to make a motion that have Andrew and myself as
I'll make a motion for Dean and Andrew to be the negotiations committee.
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second. Is there any other nominations? All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. We have the policy committee. We had Lindsay and Katie done that last year. Would you like to continue with that?
Make a motion that Lindsay and Katie be in the policy committee. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other nominations? All in favor, then say aye. Aye. All the same time. Motion is carried. We have the finance. We have Phillip on there now. From last year, you want to continue? Phil?
Sure.
Good. Andrew, you want to jump on there? Being the treasurer, as we well, right.
Is there a limit to how many I can be on, Dean? Because there's one I really want to be on.
You would like to be on the student achievement?
That's correct.
No,
Well,
no.
there is no limit.
Then I would, if you're asking me to be on the finance, I'll let you do it.
You just,
Oh, sorry.
I don't want you to overload yourself.
I'll survive, I'll be all right.
Okay. Can be, so, still want to stay on there, so motion for Phil and Andrew to be on finance.
I'll make a motion for.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other nominations? All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All the same time. Motion's carried. Facility, I'll stay on that. Katie, you want to stay on that?
Eliminate Dean and Katie for the facility committee.
We have a motion and a second. Any nominations? All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
All the same time. Motion's carried. CISA 1 rep, did you do anything last year at CISA 1 rep?
I called them, but because of COVID, nothing.
Okay.
They didn't have anything.
You want to do it again?
Sure.
Okay. It's not a real active thing. Okay. Motion for Lindsay to keep the CISA 1 rep position.
I'll make a motion that Lindsay remain CISA 1 rep.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hold same sign. Motion carried. Okay, do you want to be our WASD rep?
Oh, sure.
We're not real
Well,
active
after
with
does the
WASD.
CISA one.
Oh, okay. So I need to.
You'll get a few more WASD emails than the rest of everybody.
Oh, that's fine.
Some boards are very active. We've just never historically been very active. WASD active.
I can be the face.
And that doesn't stop anyone, any board member from participating in any WASB activities or becoming active too as well. If in fact there was going to be a liaison or a communication to WASB on behalf of the board, we share that with WASB as the point of contact. which in 10 years, I don't think any, I've never done that.
All right. I'll make a motion that we do the WASB rep.
Second. We have a motion and a second. The other nominations? All in favor, then say aye. Aye. Both same sign, motion carried. So we have Katie, Phil, and Andrew for student achievement.
That's the one I would like to. So is there a limit of how many can be on?
We already have a quorum with 3. So
Yes.
I don't think it
I
matters.
don't think, it is open to the public. So if we have 4 members, that means I just work with 4 people to get on schedules and things like that. Once we already have a quorum, 4, doesn't matter.
So I have no problem with 4 people to be on. I'm not going to be on it.
Okay.
So. Well, we can make nominations for.
I'll make a motion that Lindsay be added to the student achievement. group.
And
And
We have a motion and a second. The other nomination, all in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
All same time, motion carried. We are done with the reorganization. And we're on to the minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Wait a second. I missed them.
But we need designation of public depositories. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Motion authorizing check signing designee.
Yep.
That's usually
Our treasurer.
treasurer. We have 3 on that.
We have 3. Who is it? President, vice president, and treasurer. Yep. So by default, those will be the individuals who will be, that hold those seats as public depositories. So I don't know why we keep that on. We should just probably take that off in the future because it's already designated for board policy. Take that off.
Okay, so everything should be covered under 5 there. So now we're on the minutes. We've got meetings from 4 different. No.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of Monday, March 22nd, 5 p.m. open closed session, Monday, March 22nd, 6 p.m. open session, Monday, April 12th, 5 p.m. open closed session, and Monday, April 19th at 4:30 p.m. open closed.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes that we are approving? Then all in favor, say aye. Approving the minutes. All the same sign, motion is carried. We're on to the financial report and bill listing. So Andrew, usually our treasurer is the one that reads all of this.
Okay.
This page right here.
I don't think I printed that one. I don't think I. Phil, you normally read absolutely everything here.
I don't know why, but that's what it is.
Okay. So I make a motion to approve payroll, starting with check number 553794 through 553794, the amount of $153.92. Check number 553795, the amount of $153.92. Direct deposit 900053931 through 900540045 in the amount of $154,248.88. Direct deposit number 900054046 through 900054151 in the amount of $143,225.60. Direct deposit number 900054152 through 900054262 in the amount of $147,372.28. Wire transfer for payroll liabilities, wire number 202-00244 through 202-00279 in the amount of $371,098.28 for total payroll of $816,252.88. Including that accounts payable check number 54649, the amount of $138,219.40. Wire transfer 202-00251 through 202-00272 in the amount of $25,056.42 for the energies. Credit card transactions 32021 through 32021 in the amount of $11,527.10. U.S. Bank. ACH direct deposit 202-1000057 through 202-1000065 in the amount of $528.20 for total accounts payable of $175,331.12 for total disbursements of $991,584 even.
Second.
Okay, is there any questions? Sarah? Then all in favor of approving the business, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Okay, we're on to delegations to be heard, and Denise. Okay. Would you like to?
Can I just say here?
You can, or you can come up further to the front, anywhere you want to be.
So I wanted to speak really quickly about whether the board was making a decision or having a discussion regarding in-person only for the fall. I don't think that decision's already been made.
For the fall opening, you're talking about how we're going to, that is on the agenda. Yep.
Right, so that's what I wanted to talk about. Should I wait until that time to have a discussion, or is it okay to do that?
Now is the time to address it because the discussion will be just among the board members. Okay.
So my concern is that I look at that as if you're making a decision about in-person only in the fall, you have to look at also making a decision at the same time about whether or not you're requiring students to wear masks at the same time. I think they have to be made hand in hand because it's part of our right as parents to know what your intention is. Because at that point, if you decide that students are required to wear masks and you decide that students are going to be in person only, you are literally taking the rights away from my child to attend public school because my family does not want my students or children to wear masks. 8 hours a day for a child is an excessive amount of time to wear parents. These children are outside every day playing with their friends at home. They're in the house all the time playing with their friends at home. It's no different than being at school. I walked into the school a couple weeks ago to pick up virtual materials for my daughter. I saw 3 people standing in the office, nobody was wearing a mask. They said, oh, we've all had shots, which is fine with me. I don't care that they're all wearing masks, I think it's great. They said we've all had our shots. We're like family. We spend our days together. What's the difference with the children? They spend 8 hours a day together. Why can't they be considered? To date, in the state of Wisconsin, there have been 0 deaths, not 0%, 0 deaths of children between the ages of 0 and 19. 0. There have been, and I checked this, I think, last spring, maybe, not that long ago. There were roughly 430 or 450 children under the age of 19 that were hospitalized. That number hasn't changed dramatically. So I look at this as kids are not as impacted by this pandemic as it seems to be for the rest of the world or the rest of the age groups. The current president stated on national television to a child, you are not the issue. You are not spreading the virus. You are not catching the virus. If the president of the United States stands up and says that, why are we here mandating that our children wear masks for 8 hours a day? So I also look at this as the state. So last summer, I came to the board meetings, and during the board meetings, everybody was talking about, we're not gonna wear masks, we're not gonna require the children to wear masks, we're not gonna require the teachers to wear masks, and not the children. At the end of the summer, the decision was made that everybody was gonna wear masks because the state of Wisconsin was requiring masks. Wisconsin state mask mandate is now done. So I implore you, if you know, discuss amongst yourselves why that cannot be extended to the Merton school district. It makes sense to me that if the state of Wisconsin is not requiring masks, that the school district should not require them either. And again, like I said, by requiring them, you are now telling my children that, sorry, you're not allowed to go to school anymore. It's not even an option for you to go to school because we're taking them in person and we're taking away your right to not wear masks. So I look at it again, like I said, children are in the community. The children are going and playing outside with each other. They're playing in each other's houses with each other. They're not wearing masks at home. Why do they need to wear masks at school? 8 hours is just too long for a child to be wearing a mask. A child that has a fully functioning lung capacity, that's breathing in all of the stuff that they should be breathing out, is going into their faces. If they're wearing the masks right, because I've seen the principals' pictures that they've sent. Not all kids are wearing their masks right. They're not covering their nose and their mouth. They're not necessarily covering the sides. So if they're not wearing it right, then they're not keeping things from coming in or going out in it. So if nothing else, at least make it an option for families to decide what's right for their family. It's personal protection equipment, so if it's personal to you and you want your family to wear a mask, have them wear a mask by all means, but don't require mine to. That's all I can say.
I appreciate you coming in and sharing it.
Thank you for your time and attention.
No one else was on our sign-up list. Did you get any requests?
No requests.
So we're now concluded with the delegation turn. We're on to the district administrator's report. And we've got acceptance of donations.
Yep, we have 2 donations that the administration would like to present. One of them is from Jennifer Newman, former board member, donating $2,400, which represents her 3-year salary for being on the board. The donation would be used for teacher development and training in particular. I know we are going to be using this money to help offset. We've got some first grade phonics instruction coming up this summer, and a portion of that will be used to that, and then we'll distribute that into professional learning and development for teachers. So thank you very, very much, Jennifer, for that donation. The other donation we'd like to bring forward is another PPG grant for primary school, which is a STEM grant that we've used throughout the building, but in particular in our maker area too. So that was $3,000. So thank you, Mary, for securing that grant. So just looking for a motion to approve the donations as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the donations as accepted.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Quite a contribution.
Very,
Jennifer.
very generous.
Very good. Thanks. Many thanks. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor of accepting the donation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. We're on to personnel actions, and we got a few there.
Sure, we have 5 we'd like to address. First of all, a big thank you to Tori Durand, who has resigned her individual teacher contract for next year. She's been with us for 4 years. Becky Pizzo, the same. She's been here for 5 years. Those are the 2 teachers that I'd like to highlight. Again, thank you for your service. Barb Emmer has also submitted her resignation/retirement. Barb has been with the district for 25 years. So big thank you to Barb. Obviously, the face that our community knows has been through here too. So, we also have Meredith Musa, who was a long-term speech pathologist for us and has helped us all over due to the COVID, some of our COVID mitigations and things like that. She has secured another speech and language position in the private sector, so we wish her the best of luck as well. Finally, for the resignations, we have Kate Jerschley. Kate Jerschley, and we worked out a part-time agreement for Kate to go from 100% to 75%. And per state statute, unfortunately, Kate needs to resign her full-time contract to be able to do that. So again, we anticipate and we will be turning around and giving Kate Dershly a 75% part-time contract for this upcoming school year. Both the district and Kate are very excited about that opportunity, as we saw a decrease in right now in our special education department, and willing to go part-time for us. So we really appreciate that. So, so just looking for a motion to approve the letters of resignation by Tori Duran, Becky Pizzo, Barb Emmerich, Meredith Lutza, and Kate Dershly as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the letters of resignation by Tori Duran, Becky Pizzo, Barb Emmerich, Meredith Lutza, and Kate Dershly.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Then all in favor say aye. Aye. All same time. Motion's carried. We're on to information from the.
Would like to just highlight our intermediate school remodel is right on schedule, and things are going real well. As you kind of maybe walked in, we've got our front office is so far been studded in, electrics in, rough plumbing is in, and we just got the inspectors came through and signed off on the electric as well as structural. So this week they will begin drywalling and get that all finished up, and hopefully they have a coat of paint on by the end of the week. I guess is the goal from some of that too. But and the other part that has begun is we started gutting kind of the new kitchen area, and so that is going to be moving forward there too. So we're right on schedule, and excited about the new spaces too. So a big thank you to our 5th grade students and staff, as Dan Hannerhan, Heidi Jones, Janine Stopa, Holly Zimmerman, and Becky Fry. As you know, our carpenters and our electricians and our workers have been as quiet as possible, but ultimately it's pretty loud. And a big thank you to Jay, who's coordinated all the moves. Holly Zimmerman now I think has moved 2 or 3 times, at least on some need too. So a big thank you to our intermediate staff, and particularly our kids who have been really big troopers through all of this change. We're moving cubbies around, and some of them just keep peeking in, wondering what's going on too. So Jay's been keeping his staff up to date. Once a month, the BLT goes through and has some staff tours as well. So it's really exciting for part of our project. So again, thank you very much for your support of that project. But it's exciting stuff. It's going up quick, that's for sure.
Okay, we're on to committee reports, and we're going to go to the information before the committee reports.
Oh, principal report. Principal report. Yes.
It could be one of those really fun. Oh, here it comes. We go.
All right, so myself, Jay, and AJ finishing up this year his principalship under our direction. That's why he's here again, which has been lovely, because he'll be done now in June. July will be the graduation. Fantastic. So the first thing we do is we're just going to highlight the primary school, because we've been in that mode of ending the school year as we finish up what we have going on this year as well. So the first things that are happening, these are just what I have been our priorities and our focus. Let's start with our kids, because they're the most important, obviously. One of some of the things that are happening is we had a Spirit Day that happened before spring break, which actually included a celebration on that Friday right before the 26th, before we took off. So every teacher did like a minute to win it, some different celebrations, just to try to like know that we have things to celebrate beyond holidays at times. So that was really important. There's a Spirit Day that was Hawaiian Day, I believe. Also, we have up in the right-hand corner there, curriculum celebrations. That's a virtual, since we don't have our volunteers coming in and our parents. So that's a poetry jam that took place in the 4th grade. I know Mr. Craig Heinze, he's done some things also with some speaking and having a microphone, and kids just love to celebrate their learning as well. So that was one thing I wanted to highlight. And then we had Administrative Professional Day. We celebrated Jen, but we also celebrated Mrs. Smith there. And you can see that's Angela Locke's classroom gathered around her. Phenomenal group of people that we work with every day, pulling us together. And then I just said the announcements keep growing. And that's one of the biggest things is this year we included, or I started to include, that every grade level had something special to announce. So for example, this month is all about our 5Kers. They're getting to select an animal, a pet they'd like to have, and they would name it as well. So that's something that we've been highlighting. Only the announcements just keep getting bigger because now I have students that are sending shout outs to me. They're writing opinion pieces to put onto the announcements. So pretty soon we're up to 5-6 minutes and we're trying to narrow it down a little bit. So, but kids love to have be part of that and have told them there as well. That's getting to the moms. What we're digging into, I'll start with assessment. I'll turn it over to AJ.
I'll just highlight from the announcements that it's very entertaining for us to listen to Becca have to do those and read things like, I would like a horse named Toe on the announcements. That was a highlight for me in my career. Okay, moving on. As Becca highlighted in the beginning, we're looking at the end of the year, and with the end of the year comes a lot of assessing and digging into the data to see like what have we accomplished in 1 year's time, not only from fall to spring, but looking back to spring to see when we have kids leave in second, how are they leaving from third grade now? Have we made a full year's growth for every child? Not just I started at second grade and I moved to third grade, but wherever I came in, whether that's a little above or below or at grade level, am I making a full year's progress for every child in our building? Some of the assessments that we'll be doing to kind of map that out for ourselves is kind of that second bullet point, the Ames data, the MAP data, and the F&P data. Those are kind of our district in-house data points, as many of you are aware, where we're kind of tracking that data over time ourselves. So that is a window that opens up in the primary school next week for F&P. So your students might come home talking about, I read with my teacher one-on-one today, it was longer than usual. That's an F&P assessment where we listen to the child, ask questions for each book, and so on. The Ames and MAP data are more like our district standardized test, very similar to the state test in some way, but different in the sense that it's on the fly data that we get in the moment. So those will be administered over the next couple of weeks. I believe the window for those opens in the second week of May and moves into the last week of May as well. For third and fourth grade, and I'm sure Jay will highlight this as well, we're taking the Wisconsin Forward exam, which is the state required test. That's how we receive our federal funding dollars, so we're required to do that. Third graders are taking the assessment this week in math. They took their reading last week. Fourth grade is also taking math this week. We have already completed social studies and we have completed language arts. Next week we'll do science. So fourth grade, and I'm sure Jay will have for eighth grade, we have like the heavy hitter where we have all the subjects covered. So we're halfway done. 7 out of 14 sections are done in fourth grade and we're loving every minute. And the kids are troopers. So thank you to parents at home from third to eighth grade who are really supporting that process. We know it's a disruption to our schedule, but we appreciate the time that gets put in at home to help kids prepare, have good breakfast, and come to school ready to go. And then our last kind of piece of assessments, we're really starting to look at our curriculum-specific progressions, how have our kids progress through our own work, not just necessarily on state standard, but on the really nitty-gritty of writing, the really nitty-gritty of reading. Are they making growth in transitions with their writing? Are they making growth with specific inferential comprehension skills? So we can see this, the really down and dirty details of what every child needs individually, not just a overall RIT score, but specific skills so we can see where we are doing well as a district, or as a grade level, or as a classroom, and places where we can set as professional growth goals in the future for our professional development as we move forward. So that's kind of an overview of the assessments that we are currently doing or are going to be doing. And if you have questions about any of them, your child's teacher or both administrators are more than willing to answer.
Then if you go below that, process and practices that we've been focused on, we have a 6-week check-in on individual, specifically around literacy and mathematics. Literacy is a little bit more tight this year we started. It's really moving us into something called a PLC, where we're looking at data and making plans. Like AJ said, there's got to be a bar standard that every child's making at least a year's progress in a year's time. But what happens if the student comes in and is not yet up to that secure benchmark for whether it be grade level or that age level? We have to do something more. And so we can't just say at the year's growth at a year's time. We got, or also students at that other end that are advanced learning. We got to continue to make them grow and learn as well. So we do these 6-week check-ins. We just had those last week, I believe. And the first one was fast and furious, uncomfortable for probably staff quite a bit. And then the second one was like, oh, this is how we're doing this. But we're aligning again our practices, whether students receive some interventions, some advanced learning support, things like that, and we're making a specific plan being shared with families as well. So then we also, this past month, Lori Larson and myself and Fred Meisner, we've been working on when we have grade acceleration, we have requests for kids to be grade accelerated and or early admittance to 5K, what is our internal process and practices, and how do we make sure that there's a system that makes sense with benchmarks along the way, check-in points, rather than, and what do those assessments look like, and who's on those teams when we're making those decisions. So that was something that we've been working heavily on because we do have those requests sometimes, and making sure that we are aligned as we being relatively new as well to Merton. And then we've been, again, our process and practices around class list, that's really important. Today I worked with first grade and 5K for the first rounds of this. It takes a long time. If you'd ever be able to fly on the wall to hear what we're discussing, it's all about what's the best fit for each child. And each child is looked at in like a microscopic look and really putting together their voice into it too. We do ask children, who would be they want to be in their class? That has to come back to them, because they have to have that ownership. So I know that today, first graders, two little kids came down into the health room to see me, and they said, I put him on my name, I put her on my list. And I was like, now I know what you're talking about. So that's really good to have some voice and choice into that. So those are the processes and practices that we've been looking at and really digging into over the last month. Then we'll move into closing. What are we doing? We are already getting into next year, but we have to close out this year. One of the things was the safety drills. We had our tornado drill the last week. We'll be doing an intruder drill as well. Something that I put in my newsletter to families is the belief around that we don't want to surprise children. In the event that those things would happen, there's going to be enough anxiety, emotional instability there that we just need to walk through and say, listen to your teacher. We're going to stay calm the best that we can. So making sure that we are acting in a way that supports our children's developmental and their mental health is really important. So we always announce those things, we practice, we have a good line for that as well. Supervision and observations are happening quite a lot. We have all but 4 staff at the primary school are on that cycle of the framework to have a summary year, to have some direct feedback. That's something that I've been working on, and staff too, and I appreciate all their diligence in looking for feedback and the growth that they've made as well.
I'll highlight the volunteers and field trips. This is something we've been working on specifically on our building leadership team, and we actually just dug into that pretty deeply today. As Becca was kind of highlighting in her process and practices, is one thing we've been really cognizant of over the past 2 years is, do we have systems in place, not just this is how this team does it, this is how this team does it, this is how admin does it, where we have consistency across the building to avoid problems for families so that it's easier for them to engage in their child's learning. One of the things that we've been working really hard on is making sure that across our building, our expectations are similar and clear for when we have volunteers. So we've been working today in small groups on our BLT to make sure that we're highlighting and being very specific. What are we looking for from volunteers? What are we not looking for? Like, what expectations are there if you choose to sign up to do that? And the same thing with field trips, to avoid things like having a parent show up when they might not know where to be, or they shouldn't be at some location based on different rules. So just trying to make sure that everyone's on the same page and making sure that there's a system in place. So that's kind of been our priority, not just for volunteers and field trips, but across the building. Do we have a system that allows for ease of access for all of our families in our building?
Staff changes, same thing. We've been looking at as staff positions open up, then we put those out to our staff as well. We've had some internal movements, people requesting to go one place or the other, and seeing if they're the best fit for our children as well, and then granting those when that is a good fit. So we're continuing to see some movement there, and also being responsive to our students' needs. I think that's the most important thing of all of this, is that where our children need the support, that we are there to place the individuals with the expertise in those positions.
And then the last thing to highlight for you today is kind of our summer planning as we look forward to next year. Making sure that each team has clear goals as to like what are we hoping to accomplish at a grade level by grade level basis over the summer. So each team is working closely with Becca and Abby and our instructional specialists to make sure that we have goals and plans in place that when we come into the 21-22 school year, we're stepping right off and we're going with it with our best foot forward. Our summer academy focuses are going to be aligned. Yeah, you can
There's a link on
is going to be closely aligned to the strategic plan that was developed by the school board and the community over the past, I think it was 2 years or so. It's like page 11. I think that, yep, no. So as you can see, the plan, which obviously with COVID is subject to a little bit of change and flexibility, but the plan is that we're going to really focus our professional development for the year around individual student engagement, making sure that each and every child is having their specific needs met at a designated moment of time, whether that's in reading or math or science, making sure that everyone is getting what they need. So that will be a big focus of our professional development throughout the year and a lot in Summer Academy. And that's where we will continue to then support the practices we've been working on. We've done a lot of work with SEL and social emotional learning. We've done a lot of work with our mental health practices. We've, technically done a lot with utilization of technology because we've been virtual, so that's like kind of the default. But so we slipped that one right in there. So we'll continue to be supported in those practices as we move forward. And then we look to next year, or the following year, 22, 23, where we'll start to really think about like what is our culture response and instructional practices as highlighted by the board and the community. Like what does that look like for us? What are we going to be developing as a staff, as a building, as a board to make sure that we're meeting the needs of each family in our district? So that's kind of the long-term plan and what we'll be looking at over the summer. There's some remodels happening at the primary school as well. We're getting a new art room. Well, it's kind of just moving. We're building it in an open third grade space that is currently the cafeteria to allow for more play, more movement, more kind of, I don't want to say stuff because that doesn't sound principal-like, but more stuff. So we can have sinks in there, more space, larger tables. It'll just be a better opportunity for kids to engage in art in that new space, which will then, of course, open some other classrooms for shifting as well. So you'll see some classroom location changes. We have a larger first grade class, or second grade will add an additional classroom kind of by the makerspace. So you might see a few changes around the building as to where things are located, but overall, it's all based on what our kids will need for next year, which might not be the same as this year.
That's the primary school.
Yes.
So AJ mentioned forward testing. We started testing April 13th. So I've had 5th grade finished up their final tests today. So tomorrow I do makeups, which are always fun. And then on Thursday I'll do some more makeups. So our kids did an amazing job. During the remodel, we actually were able to have our construction stop for the 2 hours that 5th grade was doing their testing, so that there was no distractions that were going on. There's still some distractions, but there were no distractions from the construction that was going on. So that worked out well. Our teachers do a great job of providing a really quality environment for our kids to take the test. And we adjusted schedules, and they just kind of rolled with the punches because they know how important this happens to be. So forward testing is going well. Our schedules and electives, Ron and Mary and I had a conversation someday last week that ended in Y about electives and the different elective opportunities that our kids are going to have. We shared it with Barb, who put it into this big huge sheet, so we kind of have an idea where everything's going to go. And I sat and talked to Barb, and I said, I want to take some of these electives. Our teachers did an incredible job putting together some creative ideas. I know I'll be talking to one of the committees about that, student engagement committee about that. Great options for kids. The best part about it, in my opinion, is this new space that we're remodeling is going to be used from the first time that the building is open in the morning until it's closed when the kids leave. So everything, all these spaces are going to be utilized to the best of their ability. It's going to be really, really good. We had career day on Friday. We used to have career, well, we've had career day in the past. We had people come in and talk about their occupations. Kids got to select and choose. Well, we couldn't do that this year because of the way COVID works. So we had speakers that came in to us via Google Meet, and the kids were all, they saw 3 different speakers. They had some activities. That was all for our academic and career planning. Mrs. Kraski, our school counselor, just did an amazing job with that. Mrs. Iwatsky did an amazing job with technology so that we could make sure that everything worked. And as I look at the end of the year, supervision and observations. I'm sorry to tell you this, Becca, but I've got all my formal observations done. I have about half of what she had to take care of. So our teachers really, really do enjoy the feedback. We have a pre-observation meeting and a post-observation meeting, and frankly, those are the most important conversations that we have with our teachers about great things that we see and some improvements that they can make. We are finalizing our staffing. We saw some of our resignations that had come across in our school board packet. We've got people moving around, and as Becca mentioned, people are saying, hey, I'd like to give that a try. So we're moving people into different spots. It will be interesting to see how that all works out. We're going to have concerts, ladies and gentlemen, on May 18th and May 25th. May 18th for the band, choir on May 25th. They will be attended by families. We're not going to have, the community's not going to come in, but we're going to have it set up in ways that we have pods of seating so that our kids can perform for their families, which I think is awesome. Celebration days on the horizon. That's going to be June 3rd. Unless it rains, then it's going to be June 4th, Thursday, June 3rd, or Friday, June 4th for the rain date. 8th grade graduation. Becky Opperman is working with a group of 8th grade kids to put together all of the graduation activities. It's one of her electives. So Ron and I have been working with kids trying to figure out how we can get all of the kids in the gym and have parents be able to come and see, at least parents be able to come and see their child graduate from 8th grade. We didn't get a chance to do that last year because of the COVID. We had a drive-through graduation instead, so we're hopeful that we're going to be able to have a really cool graduation ceremony for our kids. They deserve it. Okay, I'll do it this way. Sorry about that. All right, so 4 different things I wanted to highlight. Band rehearsal, you really can't see it very well in there, but that's the entire 6th grade band together. They sound really good. And what you have to understand is Mr. Drupp had taken half of the band one day and the other half of the band the other day, and now he's able to get them all together, and they're actually creating music. It sounds really, really good. With our science adoption, and I know that Ron might be talking about that a little bit later with our new science curriculum, this is a beak adaptation that was done during the science lesson with 7th graders. So it's hard to see, but there's 4 different types of beaks and how they can use beaks to get material to build their nests. So that was kind of an interactive activity. Mr. Pomeroy took his health class out to our outdoor classroom. If you haven't seen the outdoor classroom, it's there between the primary school and the intermediate school. One of our former students' Eagle Scout project was to create that space, and it's really quite cool. And then kids are still doing math the old-fashioned way. It's not always on the computer, so there's a student there using the whiteboard to make sure he's checking his work. And then the last thing I have up here, we have Staff Appreciation Week next week. The PTO has got some great ideas planned. I'm not going to share all of them with everybody right now. But just as we continue to progress to the end of the school year, we'd like to thank our families for their support and encouragement. Most of all, we'd like to thank our staff for all that they have done to make the school year successful for our students. We ask so much of you, and you always give your best. So thank you, all of you that are educators here. Thank you very much. That's it. Right.
Okay, now we're on to committee reports. We have the negotiations committee.
Again, thank you to Dean, Jennifer, and April for the negotiations time that we spent on April 19th. I'm very happy to say that the district and Ottawa, the teachers union, have tentatively agreed on a collective bargaining agreement. The details of the agreement are in the board packet, and everybody can kind of take a look at that. But basically, we have given a total package of a salary increase to the teacher pool of 2.14%, and 1.5% of it went out distributed equally to all of the teachers equally at about $883. And then in additional to that, the board did put about $17,000 onto the salary schedule to remain to kind of bump up some of the teachers who we have deemed to be possibly out of line a little bit, and continue to move them up as it relates to market analysis and things like that. So next steps is in May, I'll be bringing the tentative bargaining agreement to the board for full ratification. May 15th April and her team, and Jen and Tanya will be issuing teacher contracts on May 15th with the updated amounts. And teachers have until June 15th to submit those back to us. And then in June, the board does approve those teacher contracts. So, but again, big thank you to everybody. This was well received by our staff. And a big thank you to the board for their time because they did meet in closed session for well over an hour or two on all of our compensations. So thank you very, very much.
So we're on the finance committee.
Yep, we had finance committee last week, we met on Thursday, and we discussed the intermediate remodel and where to utilize the funds for that from. We had a third quarter financial update and some preliminary budget assumptions. So regarding the remodel, my recommendation at this time is to utilize both funds 41 and 10 over this fiscal year and next to be for the project. So Fund 41 is our capital projects fund, and then Fund 10 is just our general expense fund. And at this point, we're not planning on utilizing any money that we have saved in 46. Fund 46 is a long-term capital improvement trust fund. And it currently has a balance of about just over $850,000. So our goal is just kind of to reserve those dollars for any future facility projects. So I have the fund impact sheet and the recommendation linked to the board packet for more detail. We have a third quarter budget update. So revenue, we've received about 66% of our revenue to date, and this lines up with prior years. We're kind of where we would expect to be. Expenses, we've expended about 50% of our budget, which is also in line with prior years. Our electric expense continues to be lower than we expected, so we should see a general savings in that category. But our natural gas, on the other hand, in February, we received a gas bill just north of $16,000 from our natural gas supplier. To put that in perspective, a typical bill in winter months is like $2,000 to $3,000. So the February bill was accompanied by a letter from our supplier saying like, well, you know, there was that crazy winter storm in February that affected the whole nation, and it had caused wellhead freeze-ups and frozen pipelines. And all of this basically combined to impact supply at a time when there was a high increase in demand. So that caused us higher than the typical gas prices. So I reached out to other districts in the area, and then that email kind of traveled throughout the state. And a lot of business managers were saying that they had also seen invoices for between 600% and 700% higher than their typical amount at that time. So the consensus was to pay the invoices. We didn't have a lot of recourse in that situation. So Ron and I next week, earlier this week, I think, are meeting with a new natural gas supplier to see how that company handled the mitigation for their clients in that situation, because that's not going to happen again.
Just as a side note, we do not purchase, we purchase on the margin, and we purchase not from We Energies.
Correct.
So April is also going to do the analysis. We've been doing that for about 4 years now, 5 years. And we'll bring an analysis that says, hey, how much did we save by doing this? And then do that cost benefit analysis, because obviously 700% increase in 1 month. So you have the news on, it affected more than just money. So.
But other than that, expenses are looking a lot more normal. So then some budget assumptions and scenarios. So I linked into the packet the governor's proposed budget as it relates to public education, as well as the legislative fiscal bureau report, just for some background information on what's been going on at the state level and what's being proposed there. Just like always, when you're in a biennial budget cycle, like there's a lot of factors that are up in the air, and they won't be finalized until the whole biennial is signed into law, which is typically during July. We have seen it go later into like August or September, but I hope that that's not the case this year. Some of the things that are unknown to us at this point include increases to state aid or the revenue limit formula, any changes in special education funding, and then of course our membership and open enrollment figures are unknown at this time. So I'm continually monitoring the news and updates at the state level and just kind of seeing what comes down the pipeline. And then next month in May, I'm going to have a formal presentation of the preliminary budget, which will be presented to the board. And I'm using conservative estimates at this point, just because again, so many things are unknown, we don't want to overassume, you know, any revenues that we might be getting. So I'll present with more detail next month.
Any questions? Okay, then we are moving on to new business. And we have the 2022 Waukesha County Area School Health Insurance Purchasing Cooperative bylaw.
Again, Merton is part of one ninth of the co-op, Arrowhead Peters, Milwaukee School District, as well as Hartford Joint School District. And every April, we approve the bylaws for the upcoming year. This ultimately authorizes us to be part of the co-op. And again, that group purchasing power as we move forward too as well, and that also working with M3. So attached to the bylaws, no major revisions at all outside of, you know, who's on the board and things like that. So the administration is recommending the board make a motion to approve the Waukesha County Area Schools Health Insurance Purchasing Co-op bylaws as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the Waukesha County Area Schools Health Insurance Purchasing Cooperative bylaws.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions, concerns? And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, we're on to the first draft of the 6-8 science curriculum for discussion only.
So Mary Awanti has been working with Sarah Kasperowitz, Becky Pizzo, Dave Wagner, and Melissa Seaboot this year to update our 6-8 science standards. And at the same time, we've been working, you know, the science standards extend past just the traditional life, earth, and physical science. There is that STEM component too as well. What you see in the proposal is a culmination of the work so far. We piloted things, and ultimately we have settled into a new scope and sequence. We would like to recommend on this first draft, the Inspire Science Program for 6-8. It will be the basis of our science program, and then ultimately that is our starting foundation and move from there. You will also see the continuation of some of our STEM programming, and you also see kind of, hey, whatever happened to automation and robotics, what happened to magic of electrons. You will find those now, given our new our schedule. We have Explore classes, and automation and robotics, design and modeling, and magic of electrons are now part of the Explore courses, where we dabble a little bit into each of those areas in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And then for those, just like we've done before in the past, who wish to go beyond that introduction, we've got some really exciting electives that we'll present that will be able to allow kids to go beyond that curiosity if they want to continue that way too as well. So we will be focusing on 5K through 5th grade this upcoming year. But again, we were able to tackle our new 6-8 program there too. So again, this is just a draft. We have run this through our Student Achievement Committee. And if there's any questions at this time, if not, feel free to get back to me before the next board meeting, because then in May, we would be asking for final approval, and then that would move forward this upcoming year.
Do you happen to know how many of the NSTA labs they're planning on doing throughout the year?
I do not have that information for you. You want exactly the NSTA ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those were specified as a supplement to the Inspire curriculum.
Correct. Yep.
And they piloted some this year. Curious.
Sure. I can share that with the board at that time.
Okay, we're on to approval of educational options for the 2021-2022 school year.
So this is a continuation from last month. And again, this is an action item. Last month was discussion. The discussion last month was really focused and ultimately culminating to what I would say the majority or the will of the board to move forward with an educational option of face-to-face or in-person only. The district still continues to work with Waukesha County and the health department, and obviously the other school districts too as well, to find out what other mitigation strategies we might have. Or what is the option for if someone still has to quarantine, if we still are in a quarantining scenario, given the health department regulations as well too. So, but the administration does support, and we did update some numbers there about what we're looking at for the students who do choose virtual. But again, I think it was important to the board to make this decision early so that families could pursue if this wasn't the option they'd like, or if this was really the option they'd like to secure what they thought. We do have open enrollment yet for 4 more days through the end of the month, but it looks like that the will of the board and the administration recommendation would be to only have a face-to-face learning as an educational option as we enter into this upcoming school year.
I'll make a motion to approve the face-to-face learning as an educational option for the 2021 through 22 school year.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on discussion. Can I ask you one question in the second paragraph? You're talking about student populations that are now doing virtual. And the line says this represents 25 students from 2 families.
23.
What?
It's 23 families.
23.
Must not have printed out.
What?
Sorry, I'm surprised it, yes, 23.
I guess I might have said 2, but I thought, wow, we got some big families.
I just didn't want to say that. I guess I would just like to clarify. Our choice last summer to require masks was independent purposefully of state requirements.
Yes, it was.
Our guidance was based on scientific knowledge at the time and recommendations from CDC and our local health departments. So I would advocate that we continue basing our requirements on those recommendations from the health department.
And just to confirm what Phil was saying, the motion and what's in our employee handbooks as well as student handbooks is this absence of a state mandate. We will next. So they did put that, it was motioned and placed into our employee as well as student handbooks as well, like that too as well. To answer your question, the CDC and the Department of Health, and we had this conversation last week at the superintendent level, asking for the county to lower or make a stance on masking requirements. And they have not. They said we will follow CDC and state recommendations.
Yeah. So I mean, we were purposefully making a decision, knowing that the law or the legal requirement to wear a mask was a political issue.
Yeah.
And so we were purposefully wording things in our requirements or in our handbooks that it was based on. Well, that it was our choice doing it, that we were not just following the state requirement.
Correct.
Yep, and I would advocate that we continue that path, that we use local choice, local decision, something. Local control, that's what I know that for. That we exercise local control and make the decision ourselves.
School boards are, and again, whether it's around the state or locally too as well, this conversation will continue to happen at the board level from that standpoint too. I will say at this point, I am not ready to make a recommendation, a formal recommendation for what our mitigation strategies are for as we think about opening the 21-22 school year.
I would just like to say I really appreciate Denise coming and speaking her mind. And I would lean towards making it option of the parents to on the mask issue, unless we see something that follows science, because there's nothing stating right now.
Well, right now the county is saying.
We hear so many things from the CDC. It's all over the board. And, but in my opinion, it's up to the parents what they should choose, and that would be, I would hope that's the decision we would be making in the future.
For me, a legal and liability standpoint, the state of Wisconsin has passed legislation to, again, from a liability standpoint, not hold businesses, schools, churches, organizations. If in fact it was, you caught COVID here, you know, they kind of made it hold harmless as well. From a liability, the insurance carriers are saying, well, we've seen people trying to sue for mask mandates. We've seen people trying to sue for no mask mandates. So it's on both sides of the spectrum. It is local control, will be up to the school board. Obviously, the administration will be making a recommendation. And again, that is in conjunction with Department of Health at both the state and the local level with Waukesha County. And then ultimately it's up to us, though. We will have the ability to make that decision on our own.
Have any other boards in Waukesha County made a decision after the election of dropping them out?
Not yet. This week is the first time when new boards can come together at this time too.
But there was some talk about that.
There is some significant talk in some of the bigger school districts, and some of the school districts who did have some board turnover, that whether it be the rest of this year to make masks optional or to start next year as well. The majority of school boards though are saying, and what I would recommend to the board is let's hold tight for the rest of the year. We've got 6 weeks left, and reevaluate as we go through the summer. Let's see what science and medicine and the health departments continue to say, and then we can shape our own recommendation at that time compared to anticipating what's going to happen 4 months from now.
So we're going to continue listening to our.
Oh, yes. Yep. And we still are in close contact because things are going so well in Waukesha County. We are in contact with the county now twice a month instead of every week. So in every other month schedule now.
I would agree with you. I think his line of thinking. I just think from a standpoint of, we've been in this now, we used March 1st as the for argument's sake last year, 14 months, and we have a lot of real life experience here at Merton School and the rest of the world. As a country, as a state, as a county, we've taken a one-size-fits-all approach to this. I think that there wouldn't be anything wrong with analyzing what we know from firsthand experience here, information that we have from various medical professionals, and coming up with a Merton solution. I think that is a common sense approach, given where we're at in this, given where this virus is and how it impacts kids less likely and less severely than maybe older adults. We've got vaccine distribution going on. So I think there's a lot of things in favor of this for these kids. One thing that doesn't get talked about enough, and quite frankly, we don't know the answer to, is what the long-term psychological and emotional impact will be on these kids. We won't know that for a while. And so the longer we have a one-size-fits-all approach, the more potential damage, and we don't know what potential damage could be doing to these kids. And so I would.
That's kind of a no argument to be there, right? Because that can literally be said about any decision ever.
I appreciate that. I wasn't finished talking, so.
That's fine.
Just,
It's a
but I
discussion.
didn't interrupt you. That's all I'm asking. So I think that type of approach and looking at the data as time goes on and listening to our parents would be a positive thing, in my opinion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on.
I guess I just would ask, it's up to the board whether they want to go and beyond. Okay, because the administrative recommendation would be to, I think, Phil, your motion in the second was not to go beyond the 21-22 school year. If you get,
What was the point of having that?
so we don't have this, unless you want to have the conversation every spring or every fall about what your educational options are going to be. Or
Why wouldn't we only have the conversation if we're planning on changing it?
based
Right,
on
like right now, we're having the conversation because we're planning on changing it.
Because
But if we're not planning on changing it, then we wouldn't need to have the conversation.
Okay.
Councilman,
Yes.
we have a motion and a second
Board.
to have just face-to-face learning for the next school year. And that is the extent of the motion. As of right now, no other decisions have been made. Okay. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, we're up to the 6603 agreement with Arrowhead for that teacher.
Yeah, so what you have in front of you is a 6603 for Jim Hessler. 6603 is an intergovernmental agreement where the individual is an Arrowhead employee and they're our employee, but we pay Arrowhead for the services. So, and what you see there is for Jim Hessler. He is, very, very, we have found and have interviewed Jim. He'd be a good fit for us. He has been in Merton before. He's taught Merton geometry pre-me. But we're real excited to have him come on board to teach the Arrowhead geometry course, which is 4 credit at Arrowhead, and as well as an algebra class for our 8th graders. So we looked high and long and far and talked to a lot of different feeder schools to see if anybody else was interested. Jim said he was interested in continuing to teach. So what you have there is basically 2 sections of mathematics, one for geometry, an Arrowhead geometry, and an algebra course to 8th graders as well, more than likely algebra B. So Jim's excited to because that actually impacts even more kids as they get to Arrowhead and continue to set them up for success there too as well. So just looking for a motion to approve the 6603 agreement with Arrowhead High School to share Jim Hessler as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the 6603 with Arrowhead Union High School for math teacher Jim Hessler as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Then all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, we're on to item E, which is the next step in the mobile awareness work and the discussion on that.
So the administration is just looking for some guidance. As the board is aware, our Student Achievement Committee has made some recommendations to begin to engage our staff in global awareness. And that through that conversation, we have arrived to a recommendation that was not fully supported by the board, the majority of the board. So I guess we are here this evening to see what next steps the board would like to take, if any, as it relates to global awareness moving forward in the district. As highlighted earlier from Becca and AJ, it is part of our strategic plan that was approved 4 or 5 years ago. And that is why we continue to move forward with it. And if it's the will of the board, just looking to hear what the direction is and next steps in the area of global awareness work.
My lean would be to put this on pause, having just hired a curriculum director, because I think we need to audit our entire approach to everything across the board and see where and how we're going to be intentional in doing this well, instead of moving forward with something, then Maria joins in July, and then I want to set us up for the most success with a smooth transition going forward. So I don't know if this is a decision that needs to be rushed right now when we're looking at a couple months. Is where I stand.
I would agree with that, especially for Maria, but then also now that we have 4 of us on the board, maybe, or on the board, and then on the student achievement, that maybe we can be assessed in the achievement and bring it to the board.
Yeah, we let it do that in panel the first time. We had a forum the first time.
Right, but there's 4 of us now, and 2 of us weren't part of that. So the two people,
All I meant was we wouldn't necessarily reach a decision in the subcommittee or in the committee just because there's four.
no, but I'm saying that we would have more of a say to start with and be able to communicate during the process
Oh, sure.
and be able to talk about it then, and then we can really come to an understanding maybe more. But I also really agree with bringing Maria in and seeing her goals and really supporting her and focus on what she would like to do and how.
Well, I mean, to some extent, we direct what she should do. I mean, filter down, right?
We hired her to help us with curriculum. because she
Yeah,
is the expert.
And I think a lot of Maria's experience, and I want to speak for Maria, she's up there, and thank you for coming back. But a lot of her experiences and kind of getting to your point, Lindsay, seconded by you, is as if the approach would be to handle it through the curriculum. Let's take a look, do an audit of that. And I think if I heard it properly, we would use the Student Achievement Committee to work with, obviously guided, and we can guide Maria as well as our administration about what those next steps might be. And Kate, I heard you kind of start with the curriculum. Let's start with the curriculum first, which was a different approach than what we tried last time too, as well.
Well, and also where I kind of got there, and then, we also have two, both Becca and AJ were with us in those meetings. We wanted the philosophical approach to this was for it not to be like an SEL thing, where a designated time this day, once a week, we're having SEL time. This was more to be approached, how is this weaving, what does this mean to our entire curriculum? So it seems very premature to try to.
I think that was the theory behind trying to get more people up to speed so that then we could work it into the curriculum. That was my understanding of what we were trying to do, I guess.
And it seems.
I guess maybe, do we need to back up and say, like, is this even a thing we want to do? Like, maybe we don't care about this anymore. Like, do we agree with the definition that we came up with? Like, is that? Because it's not even worth like having Maria spend time or anyone else spend time on it if the board as a whole isn't going to support that effort at the end of the day, right? So if the board doesn't want to do it anymore, that's an option that we should probably assert that we still will back it somehow, some way. It just we want it done this way instead of that way. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense, and I guess that's where Maria, as the expert, I want her to audit the curriculum and see where we stand right now.
Oh, I just meant like caring about it at all, the global awareness. Not even like, should we change curriculum or whatever, or should we spend money here or there, but do we want anyone to put any effort into this? Is question number one, right? Because one way of looking at it would be the board said go do a bunch of work, and a bunch of people did a bunch of work and came back and said, hey, this is what we think we should do, and the board says, nah, no. Right? And so was that no, we still want to do it, but we don't think we want to do it that way, we think we should do this? Was that no, it's just not worth the money to us? Like, what does that no mean that the board effectively gave to that group of people? I think that needs to be defined.
I'll share with you, Phil, my reason for no. In the past thing, it was a large amount of money. And when Ron was first telling about how he was trying to get a hold of this guy and do the presentation and that stuff, he had a communications issue going on in the beginning. And I red flagged it for him. You know, that he was trying to get set up times and get response from him, and he wasn't getting any thing established right there in the beginning. Ron told me that it got better closer to the time, but I don't know, I just expect more, somebody that's a consultant that's asking for that kind of compensation should be very organized. And,
That's fair.
and so that's why I got red flag with it and said no. Global awareness means different things to different people.
Well, that's why not we, I didn't have anything to do with it. That's why they, admin team, and I don't know who all was part of that, made that definition up, right? Because it does, right? That was a lot of our first meetings is like, what does this mean? And so
You were part of those meetings.
I was part of the meetings. I wasn't part of making the definition on that. Was like you and, I don't know, Becca and Mary or something.
No, we brought that to the.
I don't know. We approved it and we talked about it. I just, I wasn't in the room literally writing down those words. That's all I know. So that's why we felt like it was really important to define it for what it meant for us and theoretically Merton, as opposed to, whatever you see on the news. But I can understand the red flag that you had there. That's fair. So that would then indicate, and I don't want to speak for you, so I'm going to say this as a question or say it that, whatever. Like you would still be okay with the direction philosophically is just that, consulting.
Yeah,
was the red
that
flag.
was that red flag.
Okay. All right, that's fair.
I trust our administrative staff that they're not going to lead us in the wrong direction on some very hot political issues that's going on in America right now. Do our kids need to have awareness of what's going on in the world around us? Yes. But we don't need to take away from our core curriculum and spend a lot of time when we're asking our staff to bring these kids up to a real rigorous and we want our kids to achieve. And so I don't want to spend a lot of time distracting from our main goal.
Sure, I mean, that's understandable. I think there's also something to be argued for globally aware, at least as we defined it. Kind of enhances someone as a learner and as a potential employee. Right, I mean, those, personality traits, I guess, of, empathy, understanding, being able to relate to other groups of people are probably more important now than they have been in the past. And I think that to a large extent, that's where we were trying to go with a lot of that. So, and I mean, I guess I'm on board with, giving another insight from Maria's perspective too.
Well, also, so are we in year 2 of SEL?
We're concluding year 1.
Concluding year 1. I guess I would like to see an evaluation of how successful does everybody feel that was from spending time. It might look very different at different grade levels. Which is what I got a little bit from the last time we met as an SEL. So I'm wondering how much of this goes together. Because the one finite resource we have is time. And we know that. And the feedback we always get from staff is there's not enough time. So instead of dedicating these chunked out blocks of time, what are we doing intentionally that aligns with our mission, vision, and values that we want infused into everything we're teaching all day?
Yeah, and I guess then that begs the question, like, how do you train staff members to be able to infuse that real time? or even if it's pre-planned. Right, like relatively speaking, it's easy to say, this is our SEL curriculum, we're gonna have 3 days of PD or whatever. We're all gonna get you up to speed, and then here's the book, and you're gonna go deliver that curriculum. And we wouldn't even have to debate all day if it worked very well, but right, I mean, you can debate, the efficacy of that approach. But, from a staff perspective, that's relatively easy, right? Because here's the manual, go do this thing.
And that I don't know, because I'm not an education expert, I'm not,
Compared to
then I would
like,
defer to the experts in
go be
the room, and because I can't answer
a
those
loving,
questions. right
great,
now.
supportive teacher, not that they aren't, but I mean, like, how do you, it would just be a different model, I guess, and I don't know if there's models out there to like help do professional development for professional development. For doing that more like in situ, like how does that even work? I think that's an open question to admin or whatever.
Because we would be looking at doing something a little different than the SEL that we currently do. First of all, I think were you asking for a student assessment of it and see how that's going and follow for the student side or the adult side or both?
Both, because if we're spending people's time doing things, it's got to be worth their time. It's got to be effective. It's got to be valuable.
And that will be in the eye of the people. Certainly. That
Yes, as all these things are, but then the strategic plan that said individualizing, for whatever next year was, individualizing learning, that's another thing that's, yes, then going to be in the eye of the beholder. So we've got to make sure what we're doing well and intentionally, and we're not chasing buzzwords like, oh, check, like, oh, it's on the calendar for this year.
I'm supportive of Katie and Lindsay coordinating this with our new curriculum director and with the committee working this through.
So then what does that mean for whatever the timeline would be? Right, because hypothetically, we had this timeline planned out. I think the most up-to-date version was, staff PD was next school year, along with developing whatever it meant for the student side, whether that was specific curriculum or infusion or whatever. And then the year after next year would be rolled out to students. So if we're going to pause for a little bit, I mean, I guess if it's 3 months or whatever until Maria starts, then does that necessitate rolling that forward another year? Or would we still be able to maintain that schedule that we had set out?
I think we're going to be able to maintain it. I think that's really where Katie and Lindsay are saying, hey, look, we started to do some curricular analysis early, if that's the direction of the board, and that we work together with Maria and our administrative team. I still think, at least at this time, that if we still wanted to do something impactful to students the following year, whether that be infusion or whatever the direction is, we certainly, I think, could have that ready for the 22-23 school year. And then whether we achieve that through each curricular adoption, because this upcoming year we've got human growth and development, we've got social studies, and 5K through 5th grade science. So I think through those adoptions, I think we've got some opportunity to be ready for the 22-23 school year.
So this was a discussion item. Is there any further discussion? Or do you have a?
I think you have
a general direction.
I got general direction. So I will be pulling the committee together, student achievement committee together late July, early August. We've got on board Maria too as well. And bring the student achievement team together. Obviously, ahead of that, we'll have some administrative conversations as well as some dialogues and some updates as well with the board. But yeah, I've got enough to move forward with it, assuming this is the Student Achievement Committee wants to tackle this.
What I was saying, just to be very clear, is that I think like a student achievement with the four of us to relook at it, if it is something that we do completely or not, because I really highly appreciate all the work that you guys did. But I think with our curriculum director, like, I really think curriculum is like our main focus for our student achievement, at least in my point of view. And I really feel very confident in our families to be able to support some of the global awareness. So I just, not saying no, I'm just saying with the four of us that maybe that's how we can look at it. Well, five of us, sorry.
I'll be there.
Six of us.
And Becca.
Okay, the whole team.
We're gonna, I think we reset with our, what we would call our core team, kind of how we started all of this, which was core team of an administrative presence as well as the student achievement presence to really kind of set the mission and the direction of the next steps. And again, we just kind of reset and do what we did last time. And then we already have a team of teachers who have, you know, learned along the way that we can always tap and bring them back in once we, as a district, have decided what it is our next steps are.
And I really want to say Becca and Jane, whoever else is on it, I really appreciate all the work that you guys done. It's not that we just want to throw out everything you did. I want you to see it that way.
Okay, no further discussion. We're on to future meeting agenda items. Our May 24th meeting, we've got preliminary budget, we've got handbook and science curriculum. Is there any other items board members would like to add? And then we can wait a little while till we determine what we're going to do.
It's up to the, just wanted to, I know summer schedules get a little bit busy for people. Typically, our meeting was set on June 28th. June 28th. And just wanted to double check if that's still a good day for the board.
I will be on vacation. Will the option of dialing in and or zooming in still be available?
We could use the phone. We don't have to do it that day. I mean, we could do, we just have to have a meeting.
I don't mind phoning in or zooming in if I've got internet access.
We could, is the 21st work better for folks?
That's fine. Either's fine.
Andrew, would you be able to, are you in town the 21st? We just need to have a meeting. That's required by state statute. Phil, is that good for you? Sure. 21st?
I'll make it.
Okay.
Can I add something to our meeting in May?
Sure, yep.
Sorry, I think I missed that. I'm getting my voice here. I would like to talk about the mass, if we could add that to the meeting, if that's something, even if it's not for the school year, if we could talk about it for summer school and what it would look like, if they would wear them or not.
Sure. What I'll do is I can, we'll put a discussion action topic around basically COVID mitigation strategies.
Yeah, I think that'd be great because we've implemented a lot. Obviously, again, a year ago, we don't allow volunteers in the school. We're not allowing treats in the classroom. You know, social distancing was 6 feet. Now I think the CDC came out and said 3 feet. And so there's a lot of things that we've implemented, and even if it's just hearing the thoughts that you might have, I think would be helpful, whether we're taking action or not taking action. There's been a number of things, and just understanding how you're looking at it today or a month from now, right?
Changes.
Versus you know, last summer when it was all new to everybody.
Yep. Certainly. We can give an update on what some of our thought processes are. I'll have 2 more meetings with other Waukesha County superintendents, as well as 2 more meetings with the health department. You know, the CDC recommendations have changed. Again, a lot of those were to open up schools. Unfortunately, they still have not pulled the requirement of mandatory quarantine. My daughter just got tapped out again today. So that's really, again, we can give those updates. And again, I think summer school, we have an opportunity to possibly do some things, but ultimately, we are continuing to work with the county, no different than Jay talked about 8th grade graduation. Tomorrow I'll be submitting our 8th grade graduation safety plan to Waukesha County, that hopefully we can open up more spots for people, so we don't have to limit it just to 2 family members, maybe we can go to 4. But again, really getting that approval from Waukesha County. And Lindsay, what you're talking about, we are working with the county to hopefully put some of those things in place. And to Phil's point, circling back to that, getting endorsed by the county is still a big deal at this point. But Andrew, to your point, we have the option to do whatever we want, truly. And I say that you have the option to do whatever we want. So we'll put that on the agenda. Yep. Okay, I think we cover everything. Just we will have, it will be a heavy committee meeting too as well. We will have finance committee to review the budget proposal. Facilities, I have gathered, I'll start an email chain with the facility team as well, and we'll come together. You guys can review some bids about some of the projects we'd like to do as well. Negotiations and policies on student achievement, we'll just pause that until July or August. So some more to come on that too. So we'll communicate with facility and finance very shortly about getting some on the calendar. Okay, if there's nothing else, I want to motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
The motion is second, all in favor, then say aye. Aye. For the same time, meeting adjourned.
Everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Yes. We can do that 6603.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. There's a question.